Hi, my name is Robert, and I'm 67 years old. I will never forget the sting of those words when my daughter-in-law looked me in the eye and said, "Sorry, Robert, there's no space for you on the family trip." At that moment, I felt invisible, discarded, like an old suitcase left behind at the airport. But what she didn't know was that very rejection would change my life forever, and one day, she would regret every single word. Before I share how everything unfolded, let me ask you something. What would you do if your own family left you behind, like you were nothing more than an inconvenience? Let me know in the comments, and also tell me which city and country you're watching from, so I can thank you personally. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true stories like this. Life at 67 is not the same as it once was. My name is Robert, and for most of my years I worked as a school teacher. I wasn't rich, but I was respected. My late wife Margaret and I raised one son, David. He was the center of our world, and after Margaret passed away a few years ago, I clung to him and his new family even more. David married a woman named Jessica. At first, she seemed polite enough, smiling, friendly, even calling me Dad sometimes. But I soon realized it was only a mask. Behind closed doors, Jessica had no patience for me. She didn't like my old-fashioned ways, my quiet presence, or the fact that I didn't live a glamorous life. Still, my greatest joy was spending time with my grandchildren. I loved reading them bedtime stories, teaching them how to ride their bikes, and watching cartoons with them on Saturday mornings. Every hug, every smile, they reminded me of the life Margaret and I had built. But Jessica, she never liked when I was around. She often made comments. "Robert, maybe you shouldn't give the kids so many sweets. Robert, you always tell the same old stories. Robert, you should travel less with us, you slow us down." Each time I brushed it off. I told myself, she'll warm up eventually. Maybe it's just me being sensitive. Still, there were cracks in the relationship that became impossible to ignore. Family gatherings were supposed to be warm. Instead, I often sat quietly in the corner, listening to Jessica dominate conversations, while David nodded along. Whenever I tried to share something, an old memory, a story from my teaching years, Jessica would interrupt or roll her eyes. But the thing that hurt most was how David never defended me. He let her words slide, as though I were a guest instead of his father. So when they began planning their big summer trip, a family getaway to Florida with the kids, I held on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd include me. After all, I was their family too. I couldn't have been more wrong. It began with casual whispers at the dinner table. Jessica was scrolling on her phone, showing David hotels and flights. "Robert, we're thinking of taking the kids to Florida next month," she said casually. My eyes lit up. "Florida? That sounds wonderful. The kids will love the beach." Jessica forced a smile. "Yes, it'll be great. We're booking everything this week." I waited, heart pounding, expecting her to ask if I wanted to come. But she never did. Few days later, I overheard them talking in the kitchen when they thought I wasn't listening. Jessica's voice was sharp. "David, we can't bring your father. He'll just slow us down. He doesn't like rides, he doesn't eat fancy food, and honestly, he's too old for this kind of trip." David mumbled something I couldn't hear, but Jessica snapped back. "Besides, tickets are expensive. Do you really want to waste one on him? There's no space." I froze where I stood. My chest tightened. My throat burned. Did she just call me a waste? The next morning I tried to push it out of my mind. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it was just frustration talking. But my fears came true a week later. I had packed a small bag with swim shorts, a hat, and my camera, the same one Margaret and I had taken on every vacation. When I came downstairs with the bag in hand, Jessica looked at me with that fake smile. "Oh, Robert," she said sweetly, "I'm so sorry. There's no space for you on this trip. The hotel room only fits 4. Maybe next time?" I stood there stunned, my bag slipping from my hand. David avoided my eyes. The kids were already in the car, giggling, holding their toys. I wanted to protest, to scream, to beg, but the words wouldn't come. I simply nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel, and stepped aside. The car pulled away with laughter echoing from the windows, leaving me standing on the driveway with nothing but silence. For the first time in years, I felt truly abandoned. The days after they left were some of the loneliest of my life. I woke up each morning to an empty house, the silence deafening. I made coffee in the same old mug Margaret used to love, but it tasted bitter. The chair across the table stayed empty. I tried to distract myself. I watched TV, read old books, even walked through the park. But everywhere I went, I saw families together, laughing, talking, enjoying life. It only reminded me of what I was missing. At night, I scrolled through social media, and there they were, my family. Pictures of Jessica and David on the beach, holding cocktails, smiling wide. My grandchildren building sandcastles, riding the Ferris wheel, eating ice cream. I wasn't in a single picture. It felt like I had been erased. I sat at my desk looking at a photo of Margaret. Her warm eyes seemed to tell me, "You deserve better than this." But in that moment, I didn't feel deserving of anything. I felt old, discarded, forgotten. I whispered into the empty room, "Maybe I really am a burden." The loneliness cut deeper than poverty ever could. And yet, in the quiet of those nights, something inside me began to shift. I realized that if I wanted my life to change, it wouldn't come from waiting for David or Jessica to care. It had to come from me. That week after the family left for Florida, I couldn't shake the heaviness in my chest. I spent hours sitting at the kitchen table, staring out the window, remembering how life used to be when Margaret was alive. She always believed in me. She always said, "Robert, you have more strength than you realize." Her voice echoed in my memory as I sat in the silence. One evening, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. As I walked through the neighborhood, I saw a group of older men and women laughing outside the community center. They were planning a trip, maps and brochures scattered across the table. I stopped, curious. A friendly man named Harold waved me over. "Hey Robert, you live nearby, right? We're organizing a travel group for seniors. Care to join?" I chuckled bitterly. "Me? No, I don't think I'd fit in." But Harold just smiled. "That's exactly what Jessica wants you to believe. Everyone fits in here. Come on, at least listen." For the first time in weeks, I felt someone wanted me. I stayed, listened, and before I knew it, I had signed up for a weekend bus trip to the mountains. The trip was simple, nothing fancy, but it was life-changing. As the bus rolled through winding roads, I looked around at people my age laughing, sharing stories, living fully. Nobody saw me as a burden. Nobody excluded me. On the second day, we hiked a short trail. My knees hurt, but when I reached the top and looked at the breathtaking view, something inside me shifted. I whispered, "I'm not done yet. My life isn't over just because they decided to leave me behind." That spark grew. When I got back home, I decided to take more trips with the group. Soon I became a regular, always ready with my camera to capture sunsets, waterfalls, and smiling faces. One afternoon, I printed some of my photos and showed them at the community center. To my surprise, people loved them. "Robert, these are beautiful," one woman said. "You should sell them." I laughed, but the idea stayed in my mind. Maybe I could turn this passion into something more. That night, I opened Margaret's old drawer and found a note she had once written me. "Promise me, Robert, you'll never stop living no matter what happens." And just like that, I made a decision. I wouldn't just live. I would thrive. The next few months were a whirlwind. I invested in a better camera with my savings. Every weekend, I traveled with my group, capturing landscapes, sunsets, and portraits. At first, I shared my photos online just for fun. but slowly they gained attention. A local cafe asked if they could display some of my framed photos on their wall. To my surprise, customers bought them. Each sale felt like validation, not just of my talent, but of my worth. Encouraged, I started a small online shop. Robert's Second Chances, I called it, because that's what it felt like, a second chance at life. Orders trickled in, then poured. Soon I was selling prints, photo books, even calendars. I wasn't just making money. I was building a life of joy and independence. With my earnings, I upgraded my small home. I renovated Margaret's garden, turning it into a stunning sanctuary of roses and lilies. I built a little studio where I could edit my photos and meet customers. The biggest moment came a year later when a local art gallery invited me to showcase my work. On opening night, I stood in a room filled with my photos, mountains, oceans, sunsets, and dozens of people admiring them. I thought back to that painful day when I stood on the driveway watching my family leave without me, and here I was now, not left behind but leading, creating, inspiring. I realized something powerful. Jessica may have thought there was no space for me, but I had built my own space, one so large, so full of light, that others wanted to be part of it. Soon I bought a vacation cabin in the mountains, a retreat not just for myself but for friends, fellow travelers, and my grandchildren when they wanted to visit. Standing on the porch of that cabin, camera in hand, I finally felt at peace. I no longer needed Jessica's approval. I no longer waited for David's calls. I had carved out a life that was truly mine. But fate wasn't done with me yet. Because soon enough, the very people who left me behind came knocking, this time desperate to be let in. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon, almost 2 years after that fateful family trip. I was in my cabin, editing a new batch of photographs. From a mountain sunrise when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Curious, I stepped onto the porch. There they were, David, Jessica, and the kids. Jessica stepped out first, dressed in her usual designer clothes, sunglasses perched on her head. Her smile looked polished, but her eyes betrayed something else. Desperation. "Robert," she said cheerfully, like nothing had ever happened. "Wow. This cabin is stunning. You've really done well for yourself." David followed, looking uneasy. The kids ran up and hugged me tightly. My heart softened for them, but my eyes never left Jessica. I invited them in politely. We sat in the living room, surrounded by my framed photographs. Jessica's smile grew thinner as she glanced at them. Finally, David cleared his throat. "Dad, things have been tough lately. Money's tight and, well, the kids miss spending time with you. We were wondering if maybe we could stay here for a while, just until we get back on our feet." I leaned back, studying their faces. Jessica shifted uncomfortably, clearly hating to be in a position of need. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "Do you remember that summer trip to Florida?" David looked down. Jessica's smile faltered. "Jessica," I continued, "do you remember what you told me? That there was no space for me?" Her face flushed. "Robert, No, I interrupted firmly. "You looked me in the eye and made me feel like nothing, like I wasn't part of my own family. And David, you said nothing. You let it happen." The room fell silent. The kids looked between us, sensing the tension. I stood, walking to the window where the mountains stretched endlessly beyond. Then I turned back. "I built this life without you. Every brick, every photo, every piece of joy, none of it came from your help. And now you want space in it? No, there's no space here for people who never made space in their hearts." Jessica's mouth opened, then closed. David's eyes welled with shame. I bent down and hugged my grandchildren. "You are always welcome here," I whispered. "But your parents made their choice." With that, I opened the front door. "Goodbye," I said simply. They left in silence. Jessica's polished mask had cracked. Her pride lay shattered on the cabin's porch. For once, I wasn't the one being left behind. I was the one closing the door, and it felt like justice. After they drove away, I sat on the porch as the evening sun dipped behind the mountains. The calm quiet felt different this time, not lonely but peaceful. I thought back to that day I stood in my driveway watching them leave for Florida, my heart breaking. Back then I felt powerless, discarded. But now I realized something important. Wealth and success don't change people, they reveal them. Jessica had always been selfish and cruel. David had always been weak. The trip didn't create that. It only exposed it. And me? I wasn't the burden they said I was. I was strong. I was capable. I was worthy of love and respect. Family isn't defined by blood alone. It's defined by loyalty, kindness, and respect. I found that in friends in my travel group, in strangers who valued my art more than my own family did. The best revenge isn't shouting or plotting. It's living so well that the people who once mocked you are left to choke on their regret. The sky turned golden. I smiled. Margaret would have been proud. I hadn't just survived, I had thrived. What about you? Have you ever been left behind or treated like you didn't matter only to prove everyone wrong later? Would you forgive, or would you shut the door like I did? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear them. And if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more powerful stories of betrayal, revenge, and justice. Until next time, this is Robert signing off.